So the general consensus is that we are in the midst of a collapse and an unavoidable collapse that we're seeing indications from banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, uh, huge concerns over yesterday's um, closed door Federal Reserve meeting and just tons of information and real world experiences, boots on the ground intel being shared across multiple different social media platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Um, there's a liquidity crisis as well. You know, interest rates are going up, inflation's through the roof. And not only do the consumers not have the money for the most part, but the banks don't have it either. And businesses are seeing a decline in their balance sheets and seeing a reduction in their cash flows. While, um, yeah, it's just it's unbelievable. And I wanted to share a few comments with you guys about this. You're probably going to relate to it. And there's a tightening. There's a tightening going on. There's a reset occurring, and it's. I think it's pretty clear, pretty obvious what has been going on that can't continue. That the Fed no longer wants to happen. But with that being said, uh, the wealth gap is going to continuously get wider and wider as they fix the problem. So, if you were part of the statistical data that since the beginning of the pandemic saw your net worth decrease, while at the same time, higher income, higher net worth individuals saw their net worth increase, it took the wealth gap and did this. But when this is all over, when this is said and done, that gap's going to be, you can't even see it anymore. And I mean, I think it's already clear. It's already being shown. The Fed is actually warning those that are going to lose their jobs and lose their income to try to fix this problem. But the worst part about it is if regardless of which direction they go, but if the Fed actually pivots and pulls back and releases more money, then the folks that already saw the decline from the pandemic are going to get swallowed up even more because inflation is going to go up even higher. And more than likely, the money that's released, they're already behind and upside down, but they're not educated or disciplined enough to use that money. And they'll just spend it on all the wrong things, not have any investments whatsoever. And that money will be gone very quickly. And those that got it and used it for, to generate more wealth will just like, they're just going to take off. You're never going to catch them. And inflation is going to go up. People are going to be priced out. You're not going to be able to afford the basic necessities of life. But that's neither here nor there. I got to tell you guys about the banks, okay? And the banks and the games that they're playing, the tricks that they're playing, the strategies and tactics and playing with words and ultimately limiting people and denying them the ability to access their own money, their own funds in their accounts. And I'm gonna put this up on the screen so you guys can see it. A comment recently said that this is why people don't trust banks. And the trust is getting less and less by the day. Now, you guys probably watched one of my previous videos where I explained an encounter that I had with Bank of America. Uh, Now, granted, they didn't stop me from getting my funds, but they were questioning why I was withdrawing funds. And a subscriber actually shared information that they were addressed by their bank, by Goldman Sachs, about one of their transactions and the amount, the frequency, and what the use was for. And while another worked in the banking industry and warned that the banks are monitoring accounts over $20,000 daily because they need to know where the money's going. Is it going to stay within the banking system? It's because the banks lend to other banks. So is it going to stay within the banking system? Is it going to be used in the economy and go out and they don't know where it's coming back? Is it just going to be taken out and stashed and stockpiled and nobody gets it? The banks they're very inquisitive about what's going on because they're trying to get a grasp on where the money's going, and they're not interested in letting it go too quickly. I would not be surprised if we see soon you answer the question wrong and they deny you your money. I wouldn't be surprised. It sounds like they're afraid of a run on the banks. You don't owe them an explanation for why you want your money. And that's a valid point. You do not owe them an explanation. But unfortunately, once you put the money in the bank, it's pretty much theirs. It's not yours at that point. Now, granted, you have a balance, you have a ledger, but it's in their hands. So you have to play their games after the fact to get it back. But like I said, they're going to be questioning. They're going to want to know, and I would be willing to bet that depending on the answer, if it's the wrong answer, they may tell you, "Oh, we don't have it right now. Sorry." I saw a story about ATMs in Havana, in Cuba, and they don't have any money, and people is just sorry, no money today. So this one's a little bit longer, but this one says that I've heard several other stories like this recently. My bank, not the bank you named, limits cash withdrawals to $4,000 per branch per day. If you want more, they tell you to go to another branch and get more cash. Assuming they have sufficient cash at any given branch, you could be driving all around town. And that was actually the story about the Havana ATM situation. They were walking, they didn't have a car, they were walking all over trying to get money. But these accounts are called demand accounts, which means they are obligated to provide your funds upon demand. Clearly, they don't care about that, and it's none of their business why you want the money. And what good would a cashier's check be in this case? I think many banks are far more troubled than most of us realize. By the way, they can write you up for structuring withdrawals to avoid the $10,000 limit. You can be charged by the feds for taking $9,400 out of your account. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, once you cross over the $10,000 threshold, they have to report it to the IRS. And, the banks, the banks not doing what they're supposed to do and abiding by the laws and the rules is nothing new. And somebody actually said that they said that Wells Fargo was one of the worst banks because they get caught doing underhanded, shady stuff all the time. But the key word is caught. There are other banks doing similar things that they just don't get caught, like Wells Fargo. And that's what we need to be aware of. And, yeah, these banks are trying to offer folks cashier's checks instead of the money because they don't actually have it. But they also don't want to get rid of it. But they also know that with the cashier's check, they have the ability to track it further than the cash. You see what I'm saying? So, and this one says that the same thing happened to me 2 weeks ago. I withdrew a fair amount as I don't want to lose it. Smart, makes sense. I've banked here for 17 years. The tellers with whom I'm well acquainted were very nervous. They took a pic of my driver's license, so now I'm flagged for Uncle Sam. I've made large withdrawals before without any trouble. I asked them if they were ready for the crypto takeover. They denied any knowledge of such. I feel they were following their employee script. And God bless you all and keep pushing back against the cashless society because we all know what comes next. And yeah, so the bank employees are going to be limited on what they can say. They have rules and protocols and things like that. But also, when they try to send you to these other branches to get your money, odds are that the workforce is limited and reduced. And more than likely, even if you made it to the branch, there'll be an extremely long line or you'll have to make an appointment. Going inside of a bank these days is like an exercise in futility, and they're pushing for AI technology, digital teller, like physical tellerless banks anyway. So imagine the day that comes where you have to then negotiate with a computer, with an ATM, a terminal, a virtual machine to get your money. And this is not just in the United States either. In Canada, and same thing is happening here. Went to the bank a while back for $4,000 and they simply refused, said they didn't have enough in the safe. Told me to order the money in advance or take a cashier's check. Only two options. And multiple times kept asking, what is it for? My husband told the teller, Nunya. When she said, what? He replied, none of your blank business. It's getting absolutely ridiculous. Look, I couldn't do it. I don't, which is why I could not work at a bank, but I couldn't work anywhere in general where they put the employees in these dangerous situations to mediate this transaction and then question and pry into people's personal business about what the money's for. It's like risky, very risky. My credit union questioned me when I withdrew a large sum of money from my own account. I told them it was none of their business. They actually had to write down a reason before releasing the cash. This is insane. Now, this is actually really insane, especially for the fact that most people prefer credit unions over banks, especially not only just for the lower fees, because the credit unions are ultimately not for profit like the banks are, but for the fact that they have a more personal feel, a more community like feel, and less games being played. But I guess that isn't so much the case entirely, which ironically, one of my credit unions, if you get a cashier's check from them, you know what it says on the check? The check is from Bank of America. Go figure. But I have had that happen in the past at Wells Fargo. In short order, I moved to Forward to do all of my banking through a locally owned credit union. And credit unions seem to be kind of like where everybody's landing and they feel much more comfortable with. But at the end of the day, for me, I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing for a very long time and maintain my high level of diversification so that I'm never extremely vulnerable to just one single point of failure. You guys take care, be safe. Check out this next video if you haven't seen it already. Share this one with a friend and give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. I'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Bye.